fair cost to taxpayers here in the district. We recognize that the contract that they are currently on was negotiated before a lot of the inflation that we've seen in recent years. And these people on this contract, these are our custodians, our maintenance, our paraprofessionals, our one-on-one special ed paraprofessionals, our secretaries. These are the people that keep our school running. These are the people that really do the work behind the scenes. And the additional part is that probably about 95% of these people live in district. They're taxpayers too. And we just felt that this was a fair contract that was able to switch them to a more affordable plan, healthcare plan for the district that allowed them some more choice for the support staff. And we feel it's a fair contract. So we ask for your support of this as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. I'd like to open warrant Article 4 for discussion. If there is no discussion, we will move on. Tim Josephson is making a motion to limit reconsideration on Article 4. Scott Sanborn is seconding. Please raise your card if you agree to limit reconsideration on Article 4. Thank you. Raise your card if you vote no on limiting reconsideration on Article 4. Thank you. Tim Josephson made a motion to introduce Article number 5. Article 5, Fund Facilities Capital Reserve. Shall the Mascoma Valley Regional School District vote to raise and appropriate a sum of up to $350,000 to be added to the Facilities Capital Reserve previously established in 1988 to fund the capital improvement plan. This sum to come from June 30th fund balance, available for transfer on July 1st. No amount to be raised from additional taxation. Majority vote required. School Board recommends this Article 500. Budget Committee recommends this Article 800. I believe Hope is speaking to this warrant article.
Let's see. Article 5, was established. The Capital Reserve Fund was established in 1988 for the purposes of funding school facility projects over $25,000. The plan itself can be found on page 31 of the 2025-2026 annual report. It represents the administration's current 10-year plan for ongoing repair, replacement, and upgrades for all our facilities. Total costs over the 10-year period equal approximately $3.6 million. Next year's costs for anticipated projects are estimated at $346,000. This warrant article is requesting that the Facilities Capital Reserve be funded in the amount of $350,000 from year-end unassigned fund balances. Funding projects out of year-end unassigned fund balances helps keep the budget and local school property tax rates level and provides a buffer and proactive management plan for the school's facilities. Our ability to retain these funds gives the district the capacity to improve and maintain our facilities, providing the district's children with safe and healthy learning environment. We very much appreciate your support.
And Scott Sanborn will speak representing the Budget Committee.
I'd just like to speak in general about the capital reserve funds. These are something that we use as part of the sound long-term budget planning. And it allows us to help keep the budget year to year more stable and rather than having large increases and large spikes and large fluctuations. So we ask that you support all these capital reserve funds, and also this is a reminder that it's no additional taxation for any of these. They only are funded if there is funding available from the operating budget at the end of the year. So we're not raising any tax rates any further by approving these articles, but it's part of sound planning.
Thank you, Scott. Is there any discussion from the floor?
Gary Whitney, came from Grafton. Just to comment briefly on what Scott just said. It is true. I do know, however, though, that any money that is left over at the end of the year by RSA is supposed to be returned to the taxpayers in the form of a credit for future taxes. And so that if we do spend more money on these warrant articles, there'll be less money returned to the taxpayers. So in a sense, there is an increase in taxation for all these warrant articles if they are passed. Just want to make that clear. Okay, I have note on this warrant article that last year we only took $250,000, and I know this year we've increased that a whole $100,000. That's a very excessive amount, and I don't really think that that is justified. I note in the capital improvement plan that if we keep taking an amount of this nature out, by the out years, we get to close to like $500,000 in excess. So accordingly, I'd like to propose an amendment to this that essentially decreases that amount back to what it was last year, $250,000, and I have a amendment that so does that, and I will bring it forward if you want.
So, do I read the motion first and then give a second? Okay, I want to do this correctly. So the amendment will be, shall the Mascoma Valley Regional School District vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $250,000 to be added to the Facilities Capital Reserve Fund previously established in 1988 to fund the capital improvement plan, this sum to come from June 30th fund balance available for transfer on July 1st, no amount to be raised from additional taxation. Do I have a second to this motion?
I'll second Jacob Grafton.
Thank you. Is there anybody that would like to speak to the motion on the floor?
Dan Kiley, Enfield. I'm opposed to the amendment because if you look at the 10-year plan, if you were to lower this $100,000 at the end of 10 years, you'd actually have a negative balance in your CIP fund. But you have to remember with the 10-year plan, we're looking at this lovely new school here. In 10 years, it's going to be 20 years old. And there's going to be things that are needed to be put in. A 10-year plan is set up so that you do have enough money through the entire plan. If you keep dropping what you're going to put into the plan, then you're going to have a negative balance by the end of the plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. I recognize Carol.
Caroline Morrison from Canaan. So, years ago, when I worked in the school library, all of a sudden, water came through the roof. There was an unplanned for leak in the roof at the middle school, and they had to patch it. If they had not had this fund, they would have had to take money out of the budget, which already covers pretty much everything most of the time. Stuff happens. Additionally, you just have to, in my bank account, when Lynn gets his Social Security check, part of it goes into a bank account. We have it if there's an emergency, and if there isn't, we're building some money so that we can do something fun. That's what we're doing here. We're putting the money aside so we have it when we need it. Thanks.
Thank you.
I think talking about the future is important, and a decade down the line, we should see probably with the numbers that are currently going, a 10% jump in students. So that should be at least a $3 million spare money.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion on the floor? Tim Josephson would like to call the question. Do I have a second? Scott Sanborn. Okay, I'm not going to read the motion again unless somebody wants me to. The motion on the floor is to reduce Article 5 by $100,000, so it would go from $350,000 to $250,000. If you are in favor of this amendment to Article 5, please raise your card. Thank you. If you are opposed to this amendment, please raise your card. The noes have it. Thank you. Tim Josephson made a motion to limit reconsideration on Article 5. Do I have a second? Scott Sanborn. All those, is there any discussion on limiting reconsideration? All right. All those in favor signify by raising a card. Opposed? Thank you. Tim Josephson made a motion to open Article 6. Do I have a second? Scott Sanborn. Right, but there's nothing on the floor right now to speak to.
Thought you were still on Article 5.
Oh, I didn't see you, I'm sorry.
Jim Jetty, Enfield. I have a question, but it's for clarification, and it involves actually the next 4 warrant articles, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So do I ask that question for clarification now, or do I have to wait?
Sure, you can ask it now.
Okay. Those 4 warrant articles, they add up to, as probably other people have added it up to, $375,000. But the important thing on that is, and this is where my question is going to come in, the last sentence on each article, no amount to be raised from additional taxation. But if you turn to page 12, it says proposed budget, and the second thing is warrant articles, $375 to be raised by taxation. So I don't get it. In one sentence it says no taxation, but in the proposed budget it says yes, there is taxation. Can I have clarification on that, please?
So if you're looking at the MS 27, that's the proposed budget, which would include all warrant articles.
It says, 2025 MS 27 proposed budget for 25. And the second one underneath there is the special warrant articles, which is Articles 5 through 8, 375,000. But back when they're in page 4, when they're described, that last sentence says no amount to be raised by taxation. So I don't know what the story is there.
You're looking at page 12.
Yes, yes.
page 12, the MS-27 is just the proposed budget. It's nothing to do with taxation, whether it's taxable or not.
It's the proposed budget that has everything in it.
It's included in the total budget per the DRA on the MS-27. It's not included in the operating budget, that is Article 3. The special warrant articles come out of year-end unassigned fund balance, basically revenues over expenditures. The money comes out of unassigned fund balance at year-end.
I really understand what you're talking about. I'm looking at they're proposing for $375 for taxation. I think Mr. Andrews has a question, has an answer.
Wait. Operating budget, Article 3. That's the budget, 32,448,105. Those additional amounts on the MS-27 are the additional amounts on the warrant. They're not, it has nothing to do with what comes out of taxable amounts. Technically, if the budget is $32,448,105, those funds will end up coming out of that money if there is money left at year end. Does that make sense? It's unassigned fund balance that funds those. So technically, it's coming out of the base. That's the MS-27 that the state requires us to complete, and that's the format.
Okay, I guess it's just confusing to me. I don't know about other people. When
No,
it
I
says,
agree.
when one thing says no amount, and then you take the proposed budget, it says yes, there is taxation.
Right.
I guess it's just confusing to me, but
So the Department of Revenue Administrations and the Department of Education, you could email them.
okay.
But I agree, it is a little confusing. All right, thank you for your question.
Let
So,
me just clarify that a little bit. I made the point previously in response to a statement that Scott made that, as was said, the warrant articles take money that was from the unassigned fund balance. If this money is not spent for these warrant articles, that will be part of the money that by RSA, page 42 of this document, is going to be returned to the taxpayers. If this money is spent for warrant articles, it means the taxpayers get less money back as credit for future taxes. So the statement that says this is not being funded by taxes is absolutely wrong. And it's disingenuous of the people here to try and say that. Look at page 42, this past year.
let me clarify what it says in the warrant articles. No amount to be raised by additional taxation. No additional taxation. Yes, everything that is spent at the school comes from taxes or the state.
It still means the taxpayers are getting less money and have to spend more by not getting it back. That's the whole point.
Right, but the taxpayers are voting on each warrant article. So we don't have any article open right now to discuss, so let's move on and then we can discuss these further at that point. Okay, Scott Sanborn made a motion to open Article 6 for discussion. Tim Josephson seconded. All right, I'm going to read this. Article 6, moving right along. Fund Accreditation Activities Capital Reserve Fund. Shall the Mascoma Valley Regional School District vote to raise and appropriate a sum up to $5,000 to be added to the Accreditation Activities Capital Reserve Fund previously established in 2002. This sum to come from June 30th, fund balance available for transfer on July 1st. No amount to be raised from additional taxation. Majority vote required. School board recommends 5-0-0. Budget committee recommends 8-0-0. I recognize Danielle Thompson to speak to this article.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for coming out today. Article 6 helps to fund our accreditation activities. As we've talked about in the past, we are coming up on our decennial accreditation at the high school. The accreditation provides for an extensive self-reflection and in-person visits as part of a cycle of continuous improvement and growth. The organization that we work with on accreditation is the New England Association of Schools and Colleges, and having that independent review helps us to really provide our students with the best possible educational outcomes and having them ready for their further education and endeavors or for the workforce. I did want to call out in particular the amazing work of Tina Fleming here at the high school and with the faculty and staff that have really been preparing for this for years now. April Guinness, our director of curriculum, instruction, and assessment. You think I've been here long enough, I know what those are, but the acronyms get me sometimes too. The work that has been going on throughout this process, really starting in the 22-23 school year, is laying the groundwork for a new step in the accreditation process, which will happen this fall, which is a collaborative conference, and this will allow the work that's been done so far to come in front of a group of independent reviewers and give our folks a chance to really show off the work that's been done. Because you probably all have one of our amazing annual reports in your hands, I'll just bring out a couple of pages to you. You'll of course want to take a look at the amounts that are currently in our capital reserves. We've talked about those and why those are important for overall budgeting and planning. You should also take a look at page 45 and 46. This is the part of the annual report about curriculum and instruction and assessment. You'll notice there's a couple of references there to the work that's been happening as part of the accreditation process, including the portrait of a graduate work, which not only is part of our accreditation, but also something that we refer to in our strategic plan. And you'll also find additional references in the very comprehensive report for the high school. Again, please take your time to look through all of the wonderful things that all of our building administrators have identified. But in the high school one specifically, there's references to, again, portrait of a graduate work, as well as the committee's work with stakeholders in preparation for the collaborative conference, and then again, that decennial accreditation visit in 2027. Total costs that are estimated for the for accreditation activities over the course of almost a decade, total $35,700, and we are, with your help and support on this article, Article 6, for an additional $5,000, we will move closer to making sure that those estimated funds come from that capital reserve fund and not from the regular operating budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. I'd like to open this for public discussion, if there's any discussion on right, we have a motion from Tim Josephson to limit reconsideration on Article 6. Scott Sanborn seconds. Any discussion? If all in favor of limiting reconsideration on Article 6, please raise your card. Thank you. All opposed? Thank you. Scott Sanborn, I'd like to open discussion on Article 7, and Tim Josephson seconded. Article 7, Fund Cafeteria Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. Shall the Mascoma Valley Regional School District vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to the Cafeteria Equipment Capital Reserve Fund previously established in 2003. This sum to come from June 30th fund balance available for transfer on July 1st. No amount to be raised from additional taxation. Majority vote required. School Board recommends 5-0-0. Budget Committee recommends 8-0-0. I'd like to recognize Tim Josephson to speak to the Cafeteria Equipment Reserve Fund.
Thank you. Once again, this is a capital reserve fund that we have established in previous years to be able to plan for future costs. When we renovated this building, one of the ways that we managed to save costs is that we did not upgrade a lot of our cafeteria equipment. These things do cost, they can cost a lot of money for a freezer or a cooler. We have not always added money to this every year, but we have found that this past year we've had to replace 2 coolers or freezers, as well as a dishwasher, and there's other equipment that we're looking at, and it's coming down to its end of life cycle. We've always had a line in the budget to do cafeteria equipment repairs, and we always spend that every year. And our facilities and maintenance department has done a wonderful job really getting a long life out of the equipment, but at some point you do have to throw the towel and say, hey, it's time for a new cooler, it's time for a new walk-in, or a new dishwasher, so what have you. So we ask for your support in this article. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Let me ask you for this discussion first. Is there any discussion on Article 7?
Just one question. Do we have any idea where we're going, how much this is satisfying our needs for the future, what the overall intent of the funds are?
Thank you, Amanda Isabel, Superintendent of Schools. Great question. I have had to replace a lot of appliances in the past year to the tune of 2 refrigerators. Those run about $5,000 each for what I need at the elementary school and at the Indian River School. We've had to replace a reach-in freezer for just over $5,000 this year. That's above and beyond the other repairs that we might have had to use. Next year, it's anticipated that I need a $12,000 stove at the Canaan Elementary School. I need a two-door refrigerator, not 2 refrigerators, a 2-door refrigerator at the Canaan Elementary School for the tune of $5,000, a 2-door freezer at the Indian River School for $5,000, and a dishwasher at the Enfield Village School in excess of $16,000. So you can see that when we get all said and done with that, I don't know, we're at money that is a substantial hit out of that capital reserve. And we do plan to pull that money out of the capital reserve fund to use next year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Any other public discussion? Scott Sanborn has moved to limit reconsideration on Article number 7. Tim Josephson is seconding. Please raise your card if you're in favor of limiting reconsideration on Article 7. Thank you. And raise your card if you're a no. Thank you. Tim Josephson made a motion to open discussion on Article 8, and Scott Sanborn seconded. Article 8, Fund Sustainability Capital Reserve Fund. Shall the Mascoma Valley Regional School District vote to raise and appropriate a sum of up to $10,000 to be added to the Sustainability Capital Reserve Fund previously established in 2024. This sum to come from June 30th, fund balance available for transfer on July 1st. No amount to be raised from additional taxation. Majority vote required. School board recommends 5-0-0, budget committee recommends 8-0-0. I'd like to recognize Tim to discuss or present this warrant article.
Thank you. Our thanks to the voters from last year voting to establish the Sustainability Capital Reserve Fund. We embarked on a sustainability plan looking at the district's energy needs, our energy efficiency, really under the auspices of are we able to save money through energy efficiency? Because there's been a lot of great technological advances over the last 20 years. We saw a lot of really cool energy saving things when we built this building. And so we recognize that all of our buildings have things that could use some energy efficiency improvements. We just asked to add a little bit more to this fund. Sometimes there are state grants or federal grants that have match requirements, 20%, 10%, whatever they might be. Having this money liquid that the board can use to jump on a grant is very helpful. It also allows us to better plan for our energy efficiency needs in the future. So we ask for your support, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. Any public discussion on Article 8?
Gary Whitney, as Yogi Berra once said, this seems like a deja vu all over again. I noticed that we had the same article last year, just happened to be, incidentally, the same article number 8. And the question was asked at one point, I remember, what specific projects are we going to use, are we going to fund with this money? I don't know. I noticed also that page 30, Capital Reserve Fund Reports, this is not listed on there. Is there a reason? Do we know what's going on with this?
Right, so the Capital Reserve Fund report you're looking at on page 30 is only through June 30th. So that capital reserve was not established until July 1st. So it would be in next year's. But you're right, there's $50,000 that was transferred to that fund.
Okay, and are there any specific projects that are going to be funded with?
I can speak to that a little bit. We don't have any specific projects. We have been talking about solar panels here at this district, at this high school campus for a number of years. We've looked at using the property that the district owns for solar fields to be able to tie into the grid and hopefully generate generate electricity that way. Unfortunately, none of our property is in a transmission area that can sustain it. So we've been looking at solar panels for this this campus here to be able to offset the energy costs of this campus, given the amount of abundant good direction of sunlight and things like that. That's what our sustainability report recommended, and so that is what we're in the process of starting to look at now going forward in this year.
So we're starting to look at, we have no idea what cost is going to be. We have no idea what was funded for the $50,000 or so we spent last year. This is what I was saying. We have all this money being allocated, and yet we're not really sure where it's going. We have no idea how it's going to be spent. And as such, I'd like to propose an amendment to this article also that essentially drops that $1,000 to, I'm sorry, $10,000 to $1,000.
So the motion,
Just briefly, I mean, this is really, obviously, a very small amount, which is the principle of the thing. What are we doing with the money? We're getting money, that's how it's going to be spent. It needs to be tracked better. Thank you.
so the motion on the floor is to change Article 8 to shall the Mascoma Valley Regional School District vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $1,000 to be added to the Sustainability Capital Reserve Fund previously established in 2024. This sum to come from June 30th fund balance available for transfer July 1st. No amount to be raised from additional taxation. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Please state your name just because.
Jacob,
Thank you. Do we have discussion on the motion?
As it was earlier brought up as a question regarding and it's been discussed already, but the no amount to be raised of tax from taxation, the DRA does look at it as a tax increase, and that's why it's written as taxes. But really, I think any additional surplus should be going towards the bonds that the school has. I believe it was up to $9 million that is stretched out to 2045, maybe it was. But so instead of paying, as for last year, $600,000 on interest and only $700,000 to the principal, these surpluses in the budget should be really allocated, if anywhere, to going to lower that principal.
Thank you. Does anybody on the school board or budget committee want to respond to this? Carol? I'll recognize Carol at the top mic.
Yeah, I'm not going to respond to what he just said, but to our motion. We go through this every year. My assumption is right now, the money we put in the account last year is still there.
Correct.
And we're adding $10,000 to it. Because we might have an opportunity to get 70 or 80% of a project paid for by the state. But even if we don't, at some point we're going to want to do something, and it's going to cost money. And by reducing the $10,000 to $1,000, people are living in a dreamland. Probably 8 years ago, we looked at putting solar onto our house. So, admittedly, it's a big house, but it's not a big house the size of this high school. And it was going to cost $20,000. So, if we think we can put solar panels on the roof of this high school for $31,000, that's ludicrous.
Thank you, Carol Ann. Dave?
Seeing no other people wanting to speak, I call the question.
Thank you. So we're voting on the amendment to reduce Article 8 from $10,000 to $1,000 for the Sustainability Capital Reserve. If you are in favor of the motion to reduce the amount to $1,000, please raise your card. Thank you. If you are opposed, thank you. The noes have it.
I have a second amendment.
Okay, the motion to Article 5 is to change it to shall the Mascoma Valley Regional School District vote to raise and appropriate a sum of up to $1 million to be added to the Sustainability Capital Reserve Fund previously established in 2024. This sum to come from June 30th fund balance available for transfer on July 1st. No amount to be raised from additional taxation. Do I have a second? Then there's no motion. Tim Josephson will make a motion to limit reconsideration. Scott Sanborn will second. All in favor of limiting reconsideration on Article 8, please raise your card. Thank you. All opposed? Thank you. Is there any other business to be brought? Excuse me?
Point of clarification, or point of order.
Okay. Okay.
I think that when you read that last amendment, I think you said Article 5 when you meant Article 8.
Article 8.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Before we adjourn, I just would like to recognize Seth and his student assistants up in the booth for
Yes, thank you. Anything else? Do I need a motion to adjourn, Peter? Tim Josephson made a motion to adjourn. Daniel Thompson seconded that. Yes, we're adjourning until the second session, which is in March 11th, 2025. Thank you all for coming. Oh, right, make sure you drop these off in your voting cards to your checklist people.